store a device profile, saying which device is the user playing from. Maybe the user is like me. I play Zero Poker from 3 devices. Right? I play it sometimes online, from the browser, on Facebook. Mostly though I play it from my iPad, much better experience. But when I'm on a train or something, I'm playing from my Android device. 3 different environments, 3 different client applications, but the state has to be the same, right? Yes, please.
I'm so sorry to even ask a question, but the device profiles, is something like that track whether they're connected or not connected?
Not just connected or not connected, but have they ever played from this device? So you want to keep that. So whenever they next come in from there, right? Okay. So that's what you use it for. But yes, that's something which I think is completely ignored. People don't build it at all. And that's something which is very, very critical. You should be building this, and it's going to get worse. Yeah. Right?
Hey, and guys, for the interest of time, let's keep our questions to after Bill's presentation, because he needs to get out of here to get to his son.
So, almost done. Then you have publishing services. You need to push out notifications to users. There are 2 kinds of them. One is when you're pushing out important information, updates, or push notifications informing them about challenges from their friends. Right? You need a fairly complex and robust queuing mechanism, which lets you push in multiple notifications for user, track where the user is, and deliver it to that user on that particular service. Right? You have an internal mechanism, which is all the screens, modal screens that you show to the user. Everything about when there's a score update, a high score, a message from the server, whatever you want to show, all of that messaging, you need to have a separate service for that. And so that's just an overview. There are not many more services that can be built and built as services so that you can reuse them whenever you like. Let's get on to some automation. Right? This is probably the second last slide, but let's spend just a bit of time on this. Now, this is an example of how you would build a social graph integration. Traditionally, I've seen developers use the social graph from the device itself. So you're using the Facebook SDK, right, on Android or iOS. And that means that when you start a new session, over here you go to send a request to Facebook Connect and get back a token. And then you go to send back another request to get the social graph for the user. And then you go to use it, store it in SQLite locally on the device. And at the end of the session, you want to destroy it. Because she's got 7,000 friends. So you don't have space on the device for all of them. But there's a better way.
They're all equally important. They're all snowflakes.
I know. But there's a better way of doing it. So if you build a platform or a service which actually runs that whole thing on the back end, what you would do is pass off this token that you received from Facebook onto the service. And then the service poll Facebook and fetch the social graph and store it on the server. What do you get with this? Anybody? What do you get by storing the social graph on the server instead of on the client?
Power.
Yeah,
Power.
efficiency.
What's the power you get? Ian?
You get power. You can email them. You can update it whenever you feel like
Yeah.
it. You can do
You can
analysis on your
also-
own of
you
how
also
people are
can inform
interconnected.
users that, hey, you've got a new friend who's playing this game.
Yep.
Right?
Tons.
Which wouldn't be possible. Now, this is a true social mechanic.
Yeah.
Right? Just fetching the social graph and showing him his friends once in a session is not a social mechanic. Social mechanic is when you can really put that information to use. Right? And this is where a really good service comes into play. If you have a good platform which is storing this information and using it at every single login and saying a new user is signed up. Is this user connected to any of my other users? Does he appear on the friend list of any of my existing players? So inform them and inform this guy, hey, you made the right choice. You've got 5 friends playing this game. Right? That's going to keep him hooked to the game. And that's what we build with these kind of automations. Instead of just depending upon the SDK, which is plain vanilla, you can just build it that way. Think different. This is how you can make it a lot better for your game. This is just an example. There are probably 100 examples like this which can benefit from using a backend as a service. Now let's talk about some scaling. So what's most important about scaling is you need to figure out what information you need when and with what frequency, right? And whatever you need with the highest frequency and the lowest amount of time, the fastest return on that information has got to be in cache. And your cache needs to be stateless. It needs to be something which is not dependent upon that particular session. You need to be able to store that state in that session for the user over a long period of time without losing it, right? And you need a persistent layer where you store long-term information. It's not going to be requested so often, but it's still very important. You don't want to lose it, right? So you need to store that in your third tier, which is your database tier, over here, right? And you need the whole application server in between. Now, as you use a backend service, you need to be processing. This automation that I explained on this slide is possible because you have a server which is running these routines, these algorithms which are going to check for on every login whether this guy has a friend or not. Right? It's a backend process. It's not synchronous to the login process, but it needs to be done. Right? And that's where the whole application server comes into play. Essentially, you're looking at how you can load balance and keep extending your infrastructure, irrespective of how many people come to you. You may have 1,000 users day 1, but day 7, you may be up to 100,000. And day 15, you may be at 1 million plus. So do you start with 1 server? Do you start with 5? Do you start with 20? Do you have the money for those 20? And what if there are 32 million like draw something God? So then do you have money for 1,000 servers? Or do you run it smart? Right? That's where cloud services come in, and that's where you can automate scalability. You can code it into your application itself. The application can launch new instances, can clone that entire infrastructure that you've built. But you've got to think right about it. You need to have thought through what runs where in your stack and how well it is put together so that it can respond in an automated fashion. Right? You don't need 30 servers and 30 people to run 30 servers. You should be able to run it with just one guy, right? Or no guys at all. And all of these things put together will help you achieve this. Will help level the playing field with the big studios, right? You have the skills, the art, you need the infrastructure, ops, and the smarts of the platform. And it helps you cut down development time. Right? If you get started with a stack, which is good, you could cut down as much as 50% from day 1. Right? And that's what we provided. Right? So give us a try, but in general, this was meant to give you an overview of what you need to build, what's out there when you want to build a multiplayer.
Awesome.
So that's about it. Did it help?
It was really good.
Stay around for questions, and we're just
we'll
going
do
to
that
go over
later. I
to
think
Bill's
Bill needs
presentation.
to, Bill
And
is a much
any
better
questions you
speaker.
have, write them down so you remember by the time.
Bill is a much better speaker than I am. I was worried about going second after him because I was sure that nobody would want to listen to me after. So I've heard him speak a number of times, and he's really, really awesome. Right.
Thanks, Nick.
Over to you.
Is this working?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. Now that this talk has been built up, if I stay on slide 1, it'll be super boring. Now do we drag it over to the other one? It is not there. No. Okay, well, we're in part 2 of technical difficulties. Just because you guys might have missed the earlier technical difficulties. So this talk's a little bit different. So Nikhil gave a talk on the technical aspects of multiplayer. It's still not there. All right, this. It is not there. We have a nice fabric-like back. Ooh, space. This is a little bit more about, just a little bit of background on me. I've been doing platforms and services via platforms and aggregations of platforms and so on and so forth for about the past 15 years. When I first started being VP of Engineering back in 1999, it was called the ASP model for Application Service Provider. Then it became something else, then it became something else, and now it's Platform as a Service. But it's really the same thing. And this talk is, Sana asked me to give a talk on the business case for multiplayer. And I decided to instead, provide you with a set of rules around, things that can go wrong. Not necessarily technology.
Because it's so related.
And we're still not live. Woohoo! So, things that can go wrong. Slide 1. Seriously, it's kind of, can we just hold up the last one?
Bill, why don't you start presenting from memory, and then when we get the slides, we get the slides.
Yeah, so I could actually probably do that, but if the visuals help, good. Something's happening when you do that. It briefly flickers on. Okay, so we've already brought in the backup screen. We're now bringing in the backup laptop.
Interpretive dance is next.
So a little bit more about me, because we're going to skip the first few slides at this point. So I'm currently an entrepreneur in residence at Rustic Canyon Venture Partners. Pretty big in the gaming industry, pretty big in the digital media industry. I've got a new startup that will be uncloaking roughly the July timeframe. It's all about monetization in games and making more money. So if you're a game developer, if you're a studio and you're launching something in Q3 or Q4 and you want a sneak peek at how to make more money, scientificrevenue.com. We will probably change that name. It's just, I thought of it and I was like, who could be against science or revenue? So right now we're scientificrevenue.com. As soon as we hire a chief marketing officer, I'm certain I will be told that I'm an idiot. And then there will be development and marketing that are telling me I'm an idiot. So, okay, on the new laptop, the clicker doesn't go that way. It should. And yet,
Just say click and Gordon will do it.
Yeah. Or I can stand over there, that'll work too. I vote I stand there.
Just stand
Your
there.
optimism is amazing.
Oh.
Now that was Gordon doing it, he cheated. Okay, so I'll stand over here, it's fine. So anyway, new startup, uncloaking July. Go there, type your name in, give me a business card, we'd be happy to talk. It's really amazing stuff. I didn't quit my job last June, and spent 10 months figuring out this business proposition to amount to something amazing. And if I dated my wife, I'll kill me. Okay, so you're building a cloud-based multiplayer game. Woo! And from the past talk, why you should do this. Let's talk about the people who are playing your game. So first and foremost, people who like to be social. How many people here have gone to the GDC vault and looked at the free? One person. Two. Okay. Lara McWilliams has a great talk on the complete failure of metrics in EverQuest. And the reason it was a complete failure is they didn't meter any of their social stuff. They had all this wonderful in-game telemetry about leveling up and killing things and so on and so forth. And all their players didn't level up and didn't, they would come in and they would sit in the hangout and chat with each other. And the game designers had no idea that this, they kind of threw in chatting at the last minute, right? And so all of a sudden they're like, holy shit, all our metrics are 0. The game is a failure. And then other people are going, we're playing for 2.5 hours a day. It must be that the game is too hard, you know? And they started trying to fix the game mechanics, and finally they realized, no, people just like chatting with each other. You know, a game is friggin' super sticky, but people never get out of the chat room. Okay, if you build places for people to hang out together, they will do it, and that's not always a positive thing, so be warned. You know, if you're expecting people to climb the hill and kill the troll, they might not. They might just sort of sit down at the bottom of the hill and talk about how big that troll is. Right? Easy to lose your gamers in the social aspects. Hard to do this. You know? So my son is 7. He plays Hobbit Kingdoms of Middle-earth religiously. Every day he wakes up and finds out that Duff King has attacked him, and then he tries to attack Duff King and he gets killed, and then we go to breakfast and he tells me he got killed. And one day he's like, Daddy, what does fuck my ass mean? And I was like, why are you asking me this, son? And it turned out that he was using the chat in Hobbit Kingdoms of Middle-earth, and somebody else was in there, and they said something, well, like, fuck my ass. And he's like, Daddy, son, these are bad words. I can't really explain to you what it means, but trust me, if you say this out loud at school, people will be upset. He's like, oh, it's like cocksucker. Okay. Yes. Now, Mom's about to come back in the room, so forget this conversation. But you will be blamed as a game publisher, by the way. You know, I'm a fairly permissive parent, and, you know, I kind of think my son is smart enough to understand the concept of bad words, so it didn't bother me. And we have a long and very clever list at this point. But if you're letting 7-year-olds into the chat rooms, be aware that you will be expected to monitor them. And that will be a cost. When that game is live for 6 months, you will have, and it's running in a multiplayer social environment, you need to hire people to do that. So that's just something that people often overlook. You know, you will monetize better, but you will have higher costs. Okay, this is how old I am. This was a great film from the 80s about a kick-ass air traffic controller who was like drunk and fired because he landed a million planes safely, but then he had one mistake, right? One little mid-air collision and people never let you hear the end of it. Or in the case of Hobbit Kingdoms Middle-earth, the actual title was Balrogs, because every time Hobbit Kingdoms Middle-earth has a network error, the error message is Balrogs, a network error occurred. And, you know, again, you know, referring back to my son, I dropped his bagel on the floor at breakfast about a week ago and he said, Balrogs, a breakfast error occurred. And I was like, I get the joke, Mom, he doesn't. But it's really interesting because people have a really long memory for the values. And so you build a distributed system, you've got players playing, they're doing asynchronous playing or synchronous playing, they're chatting, blah, 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 blah. Server goes down for 25 minutes. It might even be Amazon's fault. You will get blamed. And people will be pissed off. Far more pissed off than they are happy about the features and functionality you've delivered. So be aware of it. It means that you need to invest in monitoring. Good service matters, yeah, you know this. I just love that little logo. Don't just say no thank you. Super important point. This is kind of evil, but it's true. So, giving people free stuff makes them happier, right? Everyone loves to get free stuff, everyone loves to get a deal. So one of the first things people do when they go to multiplayer and they're in the cloud is they put their wallet out there and they put their entitlement management. So the fact that you have 900 gold coins and you own the Flaming Sword of Doom is stored somewhere on EC2. And the game calls in and finds out you have 900 gold coins in the Flaming Sword of Doom. So now somebody gets pissed off and they call in or they write in, they file a ticket, however, right? The easiest way to make them happy is to say, oh, I'm really sorry that happened, sir. No, ma'am. You know, I can understand that you're frustrated. You know, I can't make it better, but I can give you 10,000 gold coins. And that person will be like, I'm good. And they'll go play your game for like 5 hours. They'll spend all those gold coins. They'll be more engaged. They'll be more interested. They'll now buy more gold coins because they're deeply invested because they just spent 10,000 gold coins. Wow. They will be super happy and it costs you exactly nothing. It costs you a line in a database in EC2. So whenever anybody calls in and they're pissed off, have your customer service give them the loyalty currency. You know, they'll be happy, they'll be a dedicated player, it increases engagement, and it's free. But there's an important caveat. Anybody know what it is?
Once.
Exactly. They will call in next week and complain about something totally fictitious because you gave them free stuff whenever they did that. And then they will post it on the internet. What you do is you call in and you just say that, you know, you bought the thing and it crashed and they'll give you money. And, you know, so you'll see this really fascinating thing where, like, as the word gets out, people will start, you know, calling in with random BS, you know, the game doesn't work, just so they can get their fix. So you really have to just track it. I'm sorry, sir, the game can't possibly have crashed 14,000 times in 3 weeks. Got to do it, but, you know, if you do it, if you track it, it's a way to increase loyalty, and when it's a legitimate complaint, it's a really nice technique. Okay, so that's on people. The short summary, they like to talk to each other, they like to say bad words, they hate you when things go down, they hold grudges, and they lie, but they like free stuff. Nothing technological here. I'm pretty sure Aristotle knew all these things, and he didn't have an iPad. Okay, so let's talk about your vendors, and you know, none of this applies to previous speakers. Okay, so first and foremost,
Companies you mentor, so no.
yeah. So use vendors, right? Life is short, time to market matters, focus on your gameplay, blah, blah, blah. Vendors are the way you share development costs with your competitors for the things that you don't care about. Auto-scaling is brilliant, wonderful, yay, who really wants to write it? Might as well share the cost of writing with everyone else who needs it too. But be aware.